Part 10. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 91. This creature has a black clot defense layer all over its body. A pair of re-examinations faintly refracted light. Only seeing his ferocious mouthparts made him look like a mosquito. This is a huge mosquito. No matter who looks at it, they will exclaim monster in surprise. Jia Yan controlled his body and used all his strength to crawl into the dark area of the engineering area beneath his feet. I met another guy with excellent marksmanship. Even though I was flying at such a fast speed, he was able to hit me in the abdomen with one shot. Jia Yan felt that the violent shock in his abdomen was making it a little unbearable. The firearm used by the foreign young man was not a super large caliber like the Desert Eagle, but it was also not the small caliber one used by drug addicts a few days ago. It was somewhere in between, so Jia Yan was hit by this shot. The body was slightly injured. He looked down at his stomach, where he had been shot. The bullet was still stuck on the clot layer. This time, the bullet penetrated the fourth layer of defense and was only a little short of breaking through the fifth layer of defense. After the fifth layer of defense, there is his exoskeleton. Jia Yan doesn't know how powerful his exoskeleton defense is now. Although it should not be worse than the clot defense, there is no absolute, so he must pay attention to it in the future, similar to don't mess with such strong men. I really didn't expect that he could still hit me when I was flying so fast. Last time the addict didn't attack when I used the inertia of the bullet to escape, so he probably couldn't react, but this time I was flying at a high speed. Wait, that foreign young man can actually hit me instantly. It seems that this guy is also a master at the level of a drug addict. I just don't know how these two foreigners dare to confront the Chinese soldiers in the city. No matter how strong they are, it is impossible to win against an army within the territory of the Chinese state. Jia Yan recalled the previous chats between several people on the street and understood that it was very unusual that these two foreigners had been walking high profile in the Chinese city for 3 days and had not been caught. Naturally, he didn't know that this was because the two foreigners had special status and the Chinese side adopted a cautious attitude, so they never took a harsh attitude. But today the two foreigners went too far, not only causing serious injuries to several soldiers, but also endangering the lives of the people. If Jia Yan hadn't suddenly appeared, the little girl would have died. What Jia Yan didn't know was that his shocking glimpse was captured by countless cameras and became a hot topic on the internet. Even though it is still late at night, there are naturally countless active all-night parties on the internet. These people have promoted the battle videos, as well as the monster saving the little girl, to the hottest level on some video websites. What kind of monster is this? Is it the latest biological weapon developed by China? SB upstairs, this is definitely an ancient mythical beast. It recently broke through and came to save the world. There are all SBS upstairs and downstairs. This is obviously my pet that was lost the day before yesterday. If you see it, please add QQ3436536. I will be grateful. Haha, I just came to see these stupid birds upstairs. Leave a name on the tongs. Peanut melon seeds. They sell peanut melon seeds. Don't miss it if you pass by. I am a student majoring in biology. Although the appearance of this monster is not clear in the photo, through simple judgment, it is obviously an insect-like creature. But I have never known that there are any existing insects in the world. It can grow to such a large size, and it also has very conspicuous needle-like mouthparts. It is almost like our common mosquitoes, but mosquitoes cannot grow to such a large size. There is neither such a need nor such an external environment, so please forgive me, but I have doubts about the authenticity of this video. Could it be computer processed by a boring person? Upstairs, I'm a computer major. I briefly watched this video, and there is no trace of fraud. Moreover, the matter of the two foreigners is so big that the news will report it tomorrow. Maybe it will be reported later. A major website has opened a special page for this flying creature. This cannot be faked, just wait for the experts to explain. Countless comments covered the entire network. At this time, in the office buildings of the two news media, the leaders on both sides received a piece of news. Their professional cameras captured a relatively clear image of the flying creature. Immediately, the top executives of these two news media took action. The next day, the photos taken by these two media outlets were quoted by countless media. It was a mosquito that seemed to be magnified countless times. The compound eyes on the side reflected faint light under the bright lights. In the darkness of the night, he used his 4 long legs to hook the shoulders and clothes of the little girl in distress. The wings beat so fast that the camera could only capture a series of light and shadow effects. Even though it was taken with a professional camera, the photo is still blurry due to the lighting. The release of this set of photos is the prelude to a more violent wave of noise. Amid the outcry, some questioned the authenticity of the photo. There are also people who are confused about what this giant mosquito-like monster is. Of course, there are some people who say that if the country does nothing, it will take monsters to save people. And in this wave, Jia Yan, the center of the wave, has been hiding deep in an engineering building. He is healing. The injuries in the internal organs are actually slowly getting better. This process just requires a certain amount of energy consumption. Deep in the gap between a pile of building materials, Jia Yan's body of more than 20 centimeters was lying there. 2 days have passed since the madness that night, and 2 days have passed since Jia Yan was lying deep in the building materials. He originally thought that concussion injuries to the body, because they were internal to the organs, might be troublesome and might even leave some hidden diseases. But after 2 days passed, he discovered that he had just sucked the wild boar blood some time ago, which was consumed relatively quickly, but the injuries in his internal organs were miraculously slowly repairing themselves. It's said to be slow, but it's many times faster than human injury repair. Is this because of mutation? Or does the mosquito itself have such a strong self-healing ability? Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed. This problem may be caused by both. Jia Yan's body's self-healing ability must have been strengthened to some extent after several mutations. But this enhancement is still based on the conditions of the mosquito itself. It's just that ordinary mosquitoes are too small to show it. Jia Yan mutated to such a huge body, and the power of self-healing was immediately amplified. Mosquitoes are creatures that have been studied by humans because they are harmful. But when Jia Yan's huge mosquito appeared under the camera, their exposure rate increased countless times. With such a huge exposure, as a college student in Shanghai, it is impossible not to have heard of it. Hey, this mosquito. Yatangyu was in the dormitory, holding his lost computer and watching the news on the internet. What attracted her most to this news was the picture accompanying the text. On the picture, there is a picture of a giant mosquito. Although the size was completely different from the one that saved him, the more Yatangyu looked at it, the more he felt that this big mosquito was very similar to the one he had seen before. At this time, her phone rang with incoming call music. Yatangyu, hello, I'm Zhang Shiming. Have you seen the recent news? I suspect that the big mosquito is the one that saved us. Although I don't know how he grew to be so big, the appearance looks very similar to me, and the location is also in Tumen City, so it's absolutely right. Zhang Shiming's deep voice came from the other side of the phone. I also think it's very similar, but after all, it's a little different from the one we saw. The main reason is that the body shape is too different. Do you think this is his kind or something? Although Yatangyu also agrees with Zhang Shiming's words, but still raised questions. Although from my professional point of view, this big mosquito should not be the same one that saved us, but did you see that he is saving people again? Do you think there will be another one in the world that saves people? Mosquitoes. Yatangyu was startled and was actually speechless. So I thought, this is the one. Zhang Shiming's tone was slightly excited. It seems that he is very grateful to the big mosquito that saved him that day. Yatanyu opened his mouth, but shook his head and sighed. Although she was thinking that the mosquito that attracted so much attention might not be the one that saved them, Jiang Shiming was not wrong. In this world, apart from that mosquito, is there another mosquito that desperately saves people? She was deep in thought. Classmate Jiang Shiming, I think I have to go to Tumen again. Will you go? She said suddenly. You want to go over there? The other party was surprised. That's right. As a future reporter, how can you not dig out good materials if you have them? Since I have such a connection with that big mosquito, I will definitely pursue it to the end. That's right, I will be that big mosquito's exclusive paparazzi from now on. Team, hee, she pursed her lips and smiled. Okay, I'll go with you. Unexpectedly, Jiang Shiming on the other side of the phone was silent for a while, and then actually agreed. The two's journey to track down the big mosquito has officially begun. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 92. Jia Yan, who was far away in Tumen, didn't know that two acquaintances were already targeting him, but there were too many people targeting him now. Even if he was hiding in the gaps in the building materials, he had heard the sound of the search team passing by more than once. The place where he lay was very shady. Next to the body, there was a metal bullet, which was thrown aside. As for the clot defense that was hit by the bullet, it actually healed again after the bullet was discharged. In 2 days, there was no trace of the previous injury. The laptop is still hidden in the corner of its owner's house. I hope it won't be found. Jia Yan thought of the laptop he had hidden casually. These people were searching so carefully and wondered if they would find that laptop. It seems that next time I contact the two killers, I will ask them to help me get a laptop and a wireless network card. This will make it easier for me to communicate with the outside world and obtain information. 3 days have passed. I don't know if there has been any progress in the exoskeleton I asked them to build. I have calculated that with my current body, flying with a metal exoskeleton of about 3 kilograms will not affect my movements very much. If it exceeds 3 kilograms, the flight speed will have a greater impact. I hope the metal exoskeleton they help me build will not exceed this limit. Thinking of this, Jia Yan couldn't sit still. He happened to feel that the injuries to his internal organs were basically healed. So I once again took advantage of the time around 4 o'clock in the morning to sneak out from the gap in the building materials. Spread your wings. Soar into the air. Jia Yan had not flown for almost 3 days, and the long-lost sky made Jia Yan very comfortable to fly. However, the temperature at this time has dropped a lot compared to the previous few days. Jia Yan flew towards the laptop not far away. The distance was not too far, so it only took 3 to 5 minutes to fly to the end of the field. Jia Yan got into the dark corner of the wall. Although his current body is more than 20 centimeters long, it is still not that big compared to humans. Therefore, he can still get into some small cracks that humans would never think of. Sliding through the gap between the two houses, the internal space has expanded a lot. A plastic packaging bag was lying in it. Jia Yan spent a little effort to drag the packaging bag out of the crack, and then opened it in a dark corner. Surprisingly, the laptop is still among them. Okay, let's turn it on and take a look. Jia Yan turned on the computer. Then use the homeowner's wireless Wi-Fi to log in to QQ. The Korean oppa's profile picture suddenly flashed. Jia Yan controlled the mouse and clicked on the avatar to see that it was indeed a message. Hello Mr. Chongwen, the metal components made by the German factory have been completed and are now being transported by air. You can reserve a delivery location. We can hire a dedicated person to deliver the things to you. Jia Yan thought for a while and finally shamelessly sent a message. Anyway, if you owe one favor, you owe it, and if you owe 2 favors, you owe it to them. You just need to repay more to these 2 people in the future. Hello, if your delivery person can arrive the day after tomorrow, please ask him to come to a place called Liangshui town in Tumen City, Kyrgyzstan province. You only need to ask him to put the things next to the stone monument outside the town around 10 o'clock at night. I'll receive it. Also, I'm sorry, I just have something urgent to do and I can't get away. Could you please let this delivery person help me buy an ultralight laptop on the way? Just 10 to 12 inches. Mine is the requirement is that the battery life is super strong, and a wireless network card with a balance is required. By the way, if you have one, an external power supply for a laptop with the largest capacity is also required. Thank you very much. The bearded guy on the other side of the ocean was having dinner when he heard a message on his phone and quickly opened it to take a look. Puff. This guy spit out the soup in his mouth. What are you doing? The young man with glasses sitting opposite him was immediately extremely angry. The soup was sprayed on his head and his exquisitely combed hairstyle was messed up. He felt sick. This senior really treats us as his subordinates. The bearded man handed the phone to the young man wearing glasses. After reading the news, the young man wearing glasses also grinned and smiled bitterly. Why did he feel that the senior opposite him was like a scoundrel, as if he was trying to push even further? I've helped with the previous things. Let's forget about such a small thing as buying a computer. I'll call Li Zi later and tell him to buy a computer and wireless internet equipment on the way. The young man wearing glasses shook his head. He doubted whether the favors he and the two of them had given were of any use. If the other party didn't accept the favor, then their efforts would have been in vain. After the two killers complained a little, they sent a reply message to Jia Yan. Hello, we will arrange for the delivery person to bring the computer you mentioned. He should be able to arrive in Tumen City the day after tomorrow. Seeing this, Jia Yan felt happy and quickly expressed his gratitude. Thank you very much. Maybe you are not happy at this moment, but I promise that I will help you wherever I can in the future. Snap. After a brief communication, Jia Yan shut down the computer. There's not much power left. However, Jia Yan did not return the laptop to its owner. Instead, he emptied it of all traces of himself and continued to hide it in the cracks. If something happens the night after tomorrow, he can also use this computer to contact the two killers. At this time, the sky was already getting a little brighter. Jia Yan looked at the fishbelly white sky and felt the temperature a little. The outdoor temperature in the early morning has almost dropped to 3 to 4 degrees. It may drop to 0 degrees in a few days. He felt that his time in the north was running out. After hiding the computer, the mosquito spread its wings. Continue to return to the gaps in the building materials of the engineering building not far away. Time passed quickly and the night of the third day arrived. The temperature has dropped a lot in the past 2 days. Jia Yan is hiding in the city and feels that his body has become a little stiff and his movements are not very flexible. It was almost a week since the gun battle in Tumen City. The amount of attention paid to giant mosquitoes on the internet has become slightly lower. The internet is like this. Even if some unbelievable topics are circulated, over time, netizens will easily shift their attention and focus on other things after they find that this matter has nothing to do with them. Therefore, Jia Yan can feel that the number of reporters and photographers wandering around Tumen City is much smaller. These people may just want to get a glimpse of his monster, or they may have other intentions. But regardless of good intentions or bad intentions, it is impossible for Jia Yan to show up, at least he doesn't believe in humans yet. Now he is just a mosquito, a different species from humans. Although Jia Yan will take actions to save humans, he does not believe that humans will be like him and have any friendly thoughts to approach him. If he is found, he will definitely enter the laboratory. So when the time was approaching the delivery date agreed with the two killers, Jia Yan still took advantage of the night when no one was paying attention to fly into the sky. Because it has been exposed once, Jia Yan has become more careful. Far away from the small county town of Tumen, he immediately accelerated his flight speed. The noise of the occasional flapping of wings spread far in the dead of night air. The temperature is so low. During the flight, Jia Yan stiffened slightly. However, this stiffness was quickly eliminated by the body's strong adaptability. The time now is almost 9 o'clock. According to my flying speed, it only takes about 15 minutes to reach Liangshui town. Being more than half an hour early can prevent the other party from resorting to tricks to some extent. Although Jia Yan didn't quite believe that the two killers would cause trouble for him, he still had to be on guard against others. Especially since he has turned into a mosquito, it is always right to be a little defensive towards humans. It takes at least an hour to drive from Tumen to Liangshui town, but if converted into a straight line flight, Jia Yan will fly slowly for 15 minutes. From the perspective of Jia Yan, who was flying in the air, he just flew over a few mountains and forests before arriving at Liangshui town. When traveling by car on the ground, the roads are winding, and it feels like you have to drive a long way to get there. So the scenery in the sky is completely different from that on the ground. Arriving above Liangshui town, Jia Yan estimated that the time would be around 9:15 or 6. He first looked at the scenery below and didn't see any hidden people or mechanisms, so he landed. Click. Landed in the woods near the stone monument in Liangshui town. There are few residents in Liangshui town, and almost no one is walking on the roads at this time. I don't know what the metal exoskeleton build for me will look like. Although the rough drawings are designed by myself, I can find it at Chiyuan, but I haven't seen the real thing, so I really can't imagine it. I hope they don't get some of the key data I mentioned wrong, otherwise I won't be able to wear it. Jia Yan realized that his current mood was the same as when he was a human being, shopping online and then anxiously waiting for the express delivery to his door. However, what people who shop online actually enjoy is this feeling of anxious waiting. Many people find it very interesting, as if they are waiting for a treasure that they don't know whether it is good or bad. If you unbox something good, that means your treasure hunt is successful, but if you don't like what you unbox, that's not a good feeling. Of course, as a human being, he could choose to return the product with a bad review, but now it is impossible for him to do so. And that laptop, I hope the battery life can meet my requirements and choose the best one. With the addition of an external battery, the continuous use time may reach 12 to 24 hours. Jia Yan found that in addition to looking forward to the metal exoskeleton, he was also full of expectations for the upcoming notebook. With the equipment to communicate with the outside world and obtain information, he will undoubtedly obtain more information that is beneficial to him. Not to mention anything else, even the simple map function can be of endless use to him. Finally, after waiting for seemingly long minutes, a car with a foreign license plate drove over on the road. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 93. Please collect it. The time is right. Exactly around 10 o'clock. Jia Yan cheered up a little. I saw someone in the car stopped at the stone monument and turned off the lights. A pudgy young man got out of the car in the driver's seat. He looked around. Then he quickly walked to the trunk, opened the trunk, and placed several things in the trunk next to the stone monument. Then he looked left and right again. Then get into the driver's seat and start the car. Jia Yan has been hiding in the bushes, and he has no intention of showing up to hand over. A big mosquito came to take over? It would be weird if it didn't scare people to death. So he continued to look at the car. The other party turned around in front, and then returned to the original path. Watching the other party's car body gradually disappear into the night, Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed faintly, and he continued to wait where he was. It wasn't until half an hour passed that he stood up from the bushes. Fly towards the several items placed on the ground. A packaging box obviously contains a laptop and a bunch of peripherals. Jia Yan didn't look at the computer side, but directly focused on the half-meter long box on the other side. This box was made of wood and was surrounded by cardboard boxes. It was filled with German writing that Jia Yan could not recognize. This must contain the metal exoskeleton you want. Jia Yan felt a little excited. He had been imagining the idea for a long time, and now that he had it in front of him, he couldn't wait. Still be careful though. He didn't know if there was a bomb planted in it or what. Judging from the past contact between the two killers and him, there should be no problem. However, it was necessary to be on guard against others. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed, and then he hid behind the stone monument. One of his right front feet was very slender and reached directly to the cardboard box. The sharp toe penetrated the cardboard box and tore off a corner of the paper. Hiss. Hiss. Not long after, the paper covering facing the stone tablet was completely torn off. The wooden box inside appeared directly in Jia Yan's eyes. With the faint moonlight, Jia Yan saw an object dozens of centimeters long in the gap between the wooden boards of the wooden box, fixed in the center of the box by hard plastic foam. A little metallic sheen comes out of it. That's right, it's a metal exoskeleton. Jia Yan's excitement became even higher. Seeing that there was really no mechanism left, Jia Yan simply climbed out from behind the stone monument and quickly tore the carton apart with his two front feet. Soon the paper was torn off. It's just a wooden box inside. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed. He picked up a 5-kilogram pebble the size of a small watermelon on the side of the road with his front and middle feet, and then vibrated his wings. Buzz. With 6 feet off the ground, Jia Yan held the stone and flew. When you reach an altitude of about 3 meters, let go of the pebbles. Snapped. The wooden box burst into pieces. Several wooden boards were smashed to pieces, and the cobblestones bounced and fell to the side of the road. Jia Yan flew down, picked up the rocks and continued to smash them. After repeating this for 5 or 6 times, basically all the wooden boxes were destroyed. Jia Yan was flying in the air and finally judged that there should be no mechanism in the box. He had smashed it like this. If there was any mechanism left, it would be bad luck. He flew down and carefully opened the hard plastic foam. He also tore off some of the wrapping paper. After a moment, something with a metallic luster finally appeared in front of Jia Yan. This is a metal component with a length of 30 centimeters and a height of 20 centimeters. The entire component is glowing with metal. It has been electroplated with an anti-rust layer. I don't know if the steel is special, but it is a shiny black color. Like a work of art, completely black. Under the moonlight, the metal surface looks as if there is water flowing on the surface, so radiant. It has a streamlined body, and its overall appearance looks very sophisticated and complex. When Jia Yan saw this object, he felt like he was in the future world. This is a dreamy item full of futuristic sci-fi déjà vu. Like a robot from the future. However, Earth science and technology can only make such simple models now. No country can produce corresponding real robots, and some are only rough prototypes that are not very flexible. This very precise metal component is just a body. In the hands of ordinary people, it is regarded as a decoration at most. But Jia Yan didn't want this metal component to be used as a decoration. He wants to wear it himself. Without a source of power, wouldn't he be just that? There is also a neat row of slender metal members on the ground. There are 6 slender members in total, which correspond to Jia Yan's 6 long legs. Jia Yan was a little excited and stepped forward. When designing the main part of the metal exoskeleton, Jia Yan had some imagination and came up with a design that only requires drilling in. He retracted through the hole in the front of his exoskeleton. This main part must not be wrong, even if it is off by a few millimeters. If it is different from the data Jia Yan said, then it will not be able to accommodate his body, so he has to give up. But there is a reason why German skilled workers are renowned for their rigor and technology around the world. Jia Yan drilled his body into the main body of the metal exoskeleton without spending much effort. After drilling in, fasten the buckle on the ventral side, and the whole thing will be tight. This main component is also divided into joint parts. However, these joints have already been made with fixed movable buckles internally according to Jia Yan's design. Once these movable buckles are opened, the body can automatically take off the exoskeleton. But as long as it is buckled, it will not fall off. The tail needle part is also one piece. Jia Yan moved his abdomen. His tail needle is wrapped in metal, and the entire body is protected by metal. Moreover, this metal exoskeleton extends the entire tail needle, which equals that his tail needle is about 8 centimeters in length. And the touch of this metal is obviously different from ordinary household steel. It has an extremely cold and hard feeling. The two killers told Jia Yan that this metal exoskeleton will use some of the top military steel from the Star-Spangled Banner country. Jia Yan still can't see what's unique about this metal, but after thinking about it since he asked for it again and again, the other party shouldn't be perfunctory on this point. This hardness is more completely reflected in the tail needle. Jia Yan can see that the tail needle of this metal exoskeleton is extremely sharp. When wearing it, the sharp head of the tail needle accidentally scratched the ground. Without much force, it left a deep mark on the ground. Hard and sharp. Jia Yan likes it very much. The body wrapped in the main body of the metal exoskeleton, because Jia Yan has already explained, the factory has padded it with a layer of industrial-specific shockproof colloid, and the clot on the surface of Jia Yan's body is also a kind of non-toxic to hard materials, both have a certain degree of softness. Now squeeze each other, Jia Yan feels that his body and the metal exoskeleton are completely fit together. The metal exoskeleton is just like his own body, except that it is larger. One lap. Even he, the designer, didn't expect that it would be so comfortable to wear. Even the abdomen has a movable design. When my belly absorbs food, the metal exoskeleton will not hinder my body when it is propped up. It is such a wonderful design. I just proposed this idea, but I didn't expect that the other party solved it for me. Jia Yan sighed that the designers of those German factories were indeed very powerful. It has only been a week or so, and not only has the design been completed, but the physical object has been handed over to him. No wonder the whole world admires Germany's precision industrial system. There is also a metal exoskeleton for the head on the ground. Jia Yan drilled into the main body of the exoskeleton from the head, so there must be a sleeve at the front end, and this is where the important organs are, so the defense needs to be more perfect. It seems they are doing well. Jia Yan used his 2 front feet to lift the helmet on the ground and put it on his head. Click. Click. The sound of metal scraping sounded very pleasant to Jia Yan's ears. The upper buckle is directly opposite to the upper one, and the lower lock on the chest is locked by Jia Yan with a slight push with his front foot. Click. The lock made a crisp sound. The head part of this metal exoskeleton is not exactly modeled after Jia Yan's head, but is slightly larger than his head, with at least 2 layers of gelatin defense inside. The tentacles extend from the holes. It is impossible for Jia Yan to ask the factory to build defensive armor for the 2 pairs of tentacles. That is unrealistic. All I can say is that we should be more careful in the future for these organs that have no choice but to be exposed. The next step is to equip the foot exoskeleton. Jia Yan put the slender metal exoskeleton components placed aside and put them on each of the 6 long legs. It took less than 10 minutes to get the entire metal exoskeleton fully dressed. Under the bright moonlight, a metal monster that seemed to come from the future stood proudly in the sky. He has a pure black body, the same color as the big mosquito inside, but the metal exoskeleton is brighter, and the flat surface can reflect the human appearance. There is a detachable sharp bayonet on the armor on the monster's head. This was an idea that Jia Yan came up with during the design process. Find the book garden. And on his pair of front feet, there are also sharp bayonets. These bayonets are relatively flat, but they are as sharp as razor blades. Or should I say, this blade is sharper than a razor blade. Jia Yan's request was simply to have the factory install a detachable scalpel blade for him. Including the bayonet on his forehead, Jia Yan also requested a scalpel blade. With this blade, his attack ability will be greatly improved. The protection of the metal exoskeleton is more importantly reflected in a pair of wings. Perhaps this kind of protection is not so beautiful in the eyes of others. It can even be said to be ugly, and may also affect the speed of flight. Jia Yan considered several times that the direction in which he was likely to be attacked was either from the front or from behind. The wings were on his back, so he gritted his teeth this time and asked the factory to make detachable latches on the back of the metal exoskeleton. This latch is connected to a T-shaped metal plate. When the metal plate is plugged in, a pair of wings can be protected. But how much impact this will have on flying can only be known by trying it. At least it feels like this metal exoskeleton is pretty good overall, even beyond my expectations. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 94. Jia Yan is finally fully equipped with the exoskeleton. Overall, he is quite satisfied with the ease of wearing and effectiveness of this exoskeleton. When the components are completely equipped, the weight reaches about 2.5 kilograms. This coincided with his expectation of less than 3 kilograms. The flexibility of each part of the component is pretty good, at least it doesn't affect the movement too much. There will definitely be problems, and there must be many, but overall, such a metal exoskeleton with both offense and defense will definitely greatly improve Jia Yan's combat effectiveness. Okay, no matter how few people there are here, it's still on the side of the road after all, so I'd better leave as soon as possible. It's also a good time to try out a series of effects of the exoskeleton on me. Thinking of this, Jia Yan just threw down the messy boxes and picked up a brand new laptop bag and several peripherals with his forefoot. Including himself and the exoskeleton, the total weight he will bear now reaches 10 kilograms. Fly. Jia Yan flaps his wings. The T-shaped back latch was violently scraped by the flying air convection, and it suddenly trembled. The impact is not small, making the flight unstable. Jia Yan's body finally rose from the ground. Normally, the wings only need to flap at a frequency of more than 100 times per second to fly. This time, the frequency reached nearly 300, and 6 long legs were enough to fly off the ground. Buzz. Extremely noisy. But Jia Yan feels that he can still fly. Although flapping the wings is more laborious, the heavy body maintains stability better, and the impact of the wings being blocked by the T-shaped metal plate is also reduced because of the weight. The Mosquito flew away into the distance. The flight lasted for a long time. Jia Yan was wearing a metal exoskeleton and flying towards a small cave that he had discovered while training flight some time ago. It is 7 or 8 kilometers away from Liangshui town. A cliff with a drop of tens of meters appeared in the night. It is like a knife cutting at a 90-degree angle from the top of the mountain. It looks very sinister and displays the charm of nature in an uncanny way. However, this kind of danger is not a problem at all for creatures that can fly. Jia Yan's body flew from high altitude with a certain noise. After flying for 7 or 8 kilometers, the durability had always been relatively good, but he finally felt a little tired. After all, the wings have to carry a weight of 10 kilograms to fly, and it is almost impossible to glide. Once you glide, you will definitely fall to the ground. So Jia Yan was flapping his wings all the way. Even if he is a mutated giant mosquito, he still feels overwhelmed at this moment. Fortunately, it's just ahead. Yes, this is the cliff he is going to. His destination is about halfway up the cliff, where there is a small cave over 1 meter high. The cave is at a height of more than 10 meters and is surrounded by people. Some time ago, Jia Yan rested here during the day. The dark cave was right in front of him, but Jia Yan didn't fly in directly. He first looked outside the cave and looked inside with infrared imaging eyes. He found no shadow of the creature, and then flew in. Now with the protection of the exoskeleton, and his own extremely strong protection, Jia Yan's inner sense of security has improved. Enter the dry cave. This is a cave with a depth of only more than 3 meters. It seems to have been formed very long ago. It may have been a cave dug by some creatures in the past, but it has long been abandoned. Jia Yan carefully placed his laptop and other equipment on the ground. The exoskeleton does have an impact on flying, but it's not unacceptable to me. And I was carrying something just now. Without those burdens, it shouldn't be that difficult to fly. Jia Yan first removed the sharp blades from his 2 forelegs, revealing the appearance of the forefoot itself. Then used the exposed front feet to open the laptop package. This is a 12-inch laptop of a domestic brand. It seems that the 2 killers were a little impatient, so they did not arrange for a delivery person to buy a better one. However, this notebook can be regarded as a conscientious product of a domestic brand. Jia Yan carefully took it out. Press the power button. Then check those peripheral devices. The mouse pad is turned on and the mouse is plugged in. Wireless network card plus a certain traffic card. These things were carefully placed on the clinker tape packaging. After all, the cave was not clean, and Jia Yan did not want his brand new computer equipment to be dirty as soon as he got it. As for surfing the internet, he knew before that there was a small village near the cliff where he was. This small village has some mobile phone signal base stations, and I think there may be signals here on the nearby cliffs. After plugging in the equipment one by one, and after debugging, Jia Yan silently prayed to God and Buddha for blessings. The network software prompt sounds. Already connected to the internet. Good. There is indeed a signal here and you can access the internet. So far the test is successful. After being reborn as a mosquito, Jia Yan once again obtained a device representing human civilization. From now on, he can communicate with the outside world, and life will not be so boring and lonely. Jia Yan's joy was no less than getting the exoskeleton. There are also a lot of pre-installed software. OpenQQ. I fiddled with the system for a while, first optimizing the startup software and so on, and also checking to see if there were any suspicious processes and whether the other party had tampered with it. But I think the 2 killers have already done the previous things, so they shouldn't do any tricks at this point. But for safety reasons, this system still needs to be replaced. Of course, we can wait a few days. Jia Yan doesn't have any important files saved in his computer now. Jia Yan clicked to open QQ. Sure enough, messages from 2 more killers appeared. The delivery person has delivered the item. Jia Yan thought for a while and solemnly typed out a reply. The goods have been received. I am very satisfied with everything. Thank you very much. If you have anything in the future, just leave a message and I will do my best to help you. This is not a lie. These 2 killers helped Jia Yan too much. In other words, from the very beginning when they used each other for revenge against the Yu family, he has been getting help from each other, and then they obtained the address information of the Northeast Wild Tiger factory. Now they have obtained the other party's exoskeleton, computer, and other supplies. Without them, Jia Yan really wouldn't be able to get to this point. As long as you are satisfied, Senior. Since Senior is willing to help us in the future, we will definitely not be polite to you. Please don't refuse when the time comes, haha, the other party quickly replied. Okay, I'm always waiting for your request. Jia Yan replied to the message and then quit QQ. It is still important to maintain a certain sense of mystery. Jia Yan feels that he has exposed too many tricks in front of the other party. If this continues, one day they will guess his true identity. Jia Yan opened the web page again and browsed the recent news for a while. Although he had expected that his performance in Tumen City would be widely publicized, the popularity on the internet still exceeded Jia Yan's expectations. A week has passed since the incident, but there are still a lot of articles published on the special pages of those portal websites, and there are also many netizens who have left messages. The latest speculation. There was a popular online article some time ago, which mentioned that a large mosquito appeared in the mountains of Tumen City. Is there any connection between the two? When Jia Yan saw this news, he felt a little strange. After searching online, he found the article written by Yetongyu. Unknowingly, I have become an internet star. Jia Yan browsed some articles related to himself and closed the web page. The internet is hyping him up, but after all, it is still an internet sensation. He just searched regular TV stations and other news media and found that there was no widespread hype about him. As long as his information has not been taken seriously by the authorities, there is no need to worry. After all, according to some civil society groups, Jia Yan believes that it is not that simple to arrest him. Even officially, unless some unique equipment or plan is deployed, he can escape from thousands of troops. After all, he is an intelligent mosquito and has the ability to fly. It is unlikely that ordinary capture methods will catch him. Fortunately, it seems now that the officials still don't pay much attention. What Jia Yan didn't know was that it wasn't that the officials didn't pay attention to him. But many high-ranking officials in the Huaxia Kingdom already know the location of the Northeast Wild Tiger Factory. Some people have even obtained some byproducts of the Siberian Wild Tiger Factory through connections, that is, those large creatures, and raised them as pets. And a big mosquito appeared in Tumen City. Although this mosquito was strangely powerful, it was just a mutated creature. They originally wanted to suppress the news and decide on the profit distribution of the Northeast Wild Tiger Factory before talking about anything else, so Jia Yan's impact became only popular on the internet. This is also in line with Jia Yan's idea of not wanting to be noticed by the authorities. It can be said that it delays the time when Jia Yan, this unique and powerful mosquito, is really noticed by humans. Of course, if Jia Yan continues to get stronger, he will be noticed one day. Because there are so many differences between him and ordinary mutated creatures. But Jia Yan doesn't care about so much now. He has been flying for such a long time with a heavy load, and he just wants to take a good rest. So this unique giant mosquito, without taking off its exoskeleton armor, crawled down in the cave and fell asleep quietly. Tonight, there may be a dream of a safe and bright future. To be continued. Today I still haven't received the website shorts recommended for next week. I'm sure I'm being tortured by the editor. The result of this is that Baiyu can hardly hold back this chapter. He is very irritable and feels discriminated against. When I didn't receive the website short message in the afternoon, I simply applied to the editor for listing. After waiting for several hours, the other person replied me dryly with a few words, and then applied again after 350,000 words. Okay, it's 300,000 words anyway, 350,000 words is 350,000 words. I guess this is all I can do to put it on the shelves, without any strong recommendation, and I may not even give it my next recommendation. As for the results, you can imagine. Buletinyu is not a saint, nor is he an expert who has no desires or desires. After it is put on the shelves, you can only rely on everyone. Baiyu doesn't really need much. The average subscription is 300, which means he can earn 2 packs of cigarettes every day. This book will last forever and will be completed perfectly. But if you don't even have 300. To be honest, Buletinyu can only write a hasty ending to end this book, and then look for the next opportunity to write a book. Please also subscribe to the official version when the time comes. This book needs your support to continue. Thanks to SS3RV, Yushi, and have you registered several book friends for their tips, thanks. Welcomes book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all available in mobile phone users. Please go and read Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 95. Every time I feel a little discouraged, everyone always gives me immediate support. By you really relies on everyone to persist to this point. I am extremely grateful. The deep mountains and old forests describe the jungle areas with tall trees and vast forests, and few people around them. In the mountains where few people used to come, in recent days there have been frequent calls. But this is not a normal human voice. The most common one is screams and gunshots. In just a few days and a couple of weeks, dozens of lives died miserably in this unknown wilderness. These people died here, but the turmoil of their deaths was far more than that. To know their identities, they were all very powerful mercenaries or killers, and there was even a king of soldiers among them. Their death will cause a certain shock to the mercenary system and killer system. If certain positions are released, people will naturally want to sit on them. But these things are all in the future, and the relevant people who got the news are in disbelief. Because the person who caused the death of those well-known mercenaries and killers has long been famous, but no one would think that he could single-handedly stop the impact of waves of top teams in China. But this legendary figure really survived the attacks one after another. Not only that, he also caused the death of almost all the attacking teams. Suddenly, the name Addict, which had been missing for several years, finally began to become famous in the industry again, and its name was even louder than before. But today, the expression of this legendary master praised by everyone has changed a bit. His heart became solemn. Senior, it has been more than a week. We have fought against all the big shots teams. Now you can take a rest. They said there is still one more round. As long as we survive one more round, this crisis will be over. I got through it. It's all thanks to you, Senior. Siberian Wild Tiger is sitting in the office. The bulletproof glass in his office window has been replaced at some point. At this time, the young man is no longer as frightened as he was in the past. Instead, he is relaxed and comfortable, with both feet on the table. That's right. We are really not afraid of the wild tigers in the Northeast, because there are drug addicts outside to protect us, and the factory is like an iron wall. His safety is not a problem at all. What Western King Dona? What Killer Queen Poison Jasmine? What kind of soldier is Chen Yong? These guys with empty names are all scum in the eyes of the senior drug addicts. Du Moli died, the Western King was crippled, and the soldier King Chen Yong fled back to his lair in a panic. This is what happens to the so-called top players in the country after meeting their senior drug addicts. Northeastern Wild Tiger is really glad that he went to find a drug addict before. He actually considered Western King and Poison Jasmine at that time, but the price offered by Western King was too high and Poison Jasmine was not interested in his factory. What was the result? Each one of them pretends to be a master, but in front of addicts, they are no better than scum. With the addict senior here, he can sit firmly on the fishing platform. Boy, trouble is coming. And just when the Siberian Wild Tiger was sitting firmly, he heard the addict's low and slightly vigilant voice suddenly coming from the intercom. What's the trouble? Don't those families need to rest for a while? The Siberian Wild Tiger was startled and stood up from his chair. The voice on the other side was silent for a long time, and then continued. Should I say you are unlucky, or should I say I am unlucky? Remember the super mutant of the Star-Spangled Banner that I told you about? Now there is a super mutant entering the jungle. Hey, he is dragging 3 of us Chinese behind him. The country's top military king. With such a luxurious configuration, I wouldn't dare to claim victory just by taking out one of them, but there are actually several of them as soon as they appear. Super mutant. The top king of soldiers. This. The Northeast Wild Tiger was stunned for a moment, and then he seemed to remember something. These must be the foreigners and drug addicts who were promoted in the media some time ago. They may just be fighting in a melee. Anyone who enters our side is definitely not coming towards us. You are wrong. The destination of those two foreigners from the beginning was your factory. I said to you, boy, I really don't understand what the secret is in that factory. Why are not only domestic but also foreign countries so enthusiastic about you? Factory. This, I'm not very clear about it either, the Siberian wild tiger said carelessly. Humph. Anyway, I have said before that if a super mutant appears, I will leave immediately. It's up to you, the addict snorted slightly in displeasure. Senior, please help me for a while longer. I can also tell you the secrets of this factory. I will tell you all when you are free. Please don't leave. The northeastern wild tiger almost jumped up in the office. These days, he knows how powerful top players like Junzi are. If Junzi really gives up, don't look at the dozen or so combat forces of the northeastern wild tiger. There are many people, but if they really fight, any one of those top masters can wipe them all out. I really owed you a debt in my last life. Let me tell you, I will try to contain them now. You should be prepared to evacuate at any time. I don't want to know any secrets. There is only so much I can do. Wish yourself good luck. After finishing speaking, the addict released the button on the intercom and turned off the power. The next few opponents are not at the same level as before. This top killer is not easy. This time, his true strength as a top killer needs to be fully unleashed. The addict's figure gradually retreated, and gradually disappeared into the environment in the dark jungle. The murderous aura and human aura completely disappeared. The jungle regained its peaceful appearance. But it was like the calm before the storm. Perhaps next, a three-party battle between top experts will begin. And just a dozen kilometers away from where the top masters were about to start a battle, there was a cliff cave. In this cave, a huge mosquito was lying on the ground sleeping, bathed in the morning light, and gradually woke up. I slept very comfortably, as if all the fatigue from yesterday was gone. Jia Yan gently moved his 6 legs and climbed up from the ground. During the movement, the metal exoskeleton made of military steel rubbed against the stones on the ground, making a sharp and ear-piercing sound. Clang! Click, click, click. Jia Yan, the mosquito, was bathing in the golden morning sun that was gradually rising in front of him, and his compound eyes reflected the luster. The tall body stands in the cave, and the exoskeleton is neatly dressed, looking extremely powerful. It seems to be getting a little colder again. Jia Yan felt the surrounding temperature. The temperature on this cliff was not high, and cold wind blew into the cave from time to time. Fortunately, Jia Yan was wearing a metal exoskeleton, and the gelatinous layer inside played a role in insulation, so it was not too cold last night. But this is not enough for Jia Yan to spend the winter in the north. Therefore, the mosquito's compound eyes flash. The factory and the underground world should return sooner rather than later. With this exoskeleton, not only does my defense improve by several levels, but I also have more attack methods. Dealing with the purple worms in the underground world will definitely not be a problem. As for the other ordinary beetles, Jia Yan even doubted whether their attacks could damage his own exoskeleton armor. Even the purple worms may not be able to attack the exoskeleton. After all, the steel used in this exoskeleton is, according to the description of the two killers, the very top military grade of the Star-Spangled Banner. How it works depends on the actual results. Go ahead, go to the factory now. Jia Yan took off the 6-legged exoskeleton armor and also equipped it. The 2 scalpel blades on the front feet are extremely sharp and reflect brilliance. In front of the helmet, there is a sharp blade, which is also extremely terrifying. It looks like a big hole can be punched out in the stone if you bump into it. It can be said that he is armed to the teeth. Now that he had made his decision, Jia Yan did not delay for too long. He did everything he could, including flight training, honing his fighting skills, and getting rid of 2 killers to obtain a metal exoskeleton. After so much hard work, just to return to the factory and the underground world. If this is not enough to sweep away the army of worms and even cannot break through the factory, then he has nothing to think about. He will leave the factory immediately and go directly south. At least until this winter is over, he will consider returning to the factory to try again. Then, the goals are 2 things. First, it is a black liquid that continues to evolve. Second, it's the mysterious juice from the underground world. If you can get one of these 2 things from this trip, it will be considered worthwhile. If you get both, it will be complete. Jia Yan thought of the weird machines in the underground world, and had an idea in his heart, but he didn't let himself think too much. If there are other gains, of course it will be an unexpected surprise. This thought just passed by in a flash. Standing at the edge of the cave, Jia Yan spread his wings. Buzz buzz. The neatly dressed exoskeleton has the sound of gold and iron. The 6 long legs gradually lifted off the ground. Buzz buzz. Groan. The sound of flapping wings finally broke through a limit, and the sound changed from noisy to like a dragon roaring, sweeping the earth. Second, at this moment, Jia Yan's speed increased to an extremely high level, and he immediately changed the angle of his wing muscles. The flight with extremely high frequency of wing beats suddenly changed from constant noise to gliding, without making any sound at all. Compared with the constant flapping of wings last night, there is not so much luggage today. Jia Yan feels that the metal exoskeleton on his body is not so heavy. Although his wings are carrying a T-shaped metal protective plate, slightly affects the airflow, but fortunately the impact is not huge and is within a tolerable range. So you can still adopt a labor-saving and noiseless gliding strategy at this time. Glide for a while, then flap your wings violently a few times. It's not noisy, but it's not slow. Flying towards the factory. But on the way, he landed in the jungle beside a road. When flying again, there was a small transparent bottle hanging around his neck. There is a liquid in this bottle, and the liquid has a name that is not easy to remember. It is called CHR-379 virus liquid. I don't know if the road ahead will be a thrilling battle, or will it be a smooth journey. Jia Yan doesn't know. All he can do is to be completely mentally prepared. Meet any challenge. A battle between 3 top masters, if you join this Mosquito. What will it look like? No one knows. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 96. Wish you all a happy Mid-Autumn Festival. The 3 buildings in the deep mountains and old forests have ancient appearances. The invasion of decades and nearly 100 years has made these originally solid military buildings seem to be crumbling, and their surfaces are covered with moss. In recent years, these 3 buildings, which were about to come to an end, have been rejuvenated. In the hands of a man nicknamed Northeast Wild Tiger, there seems to be signs of restoring the past. If all goes well, these 3 buildings transformed into factories may be renovated into even more magnificent buildings in the future. But a series of events cast a shadow over the factory again. There are signs of increased bullet marks on the wall. Bang bang. Da da da. The sound of pistols and submachine guns resounded from the woods near the factory. What to do? Looking out the window, the Siberian wild tiger in the office building among the 3 buildings was a little lost. He has been operating this factory for more than a year, but this is nothing. The actual planning and operation, or finding a way to find this place, took him about 10 years from his teens to his 20s. I have spent more than 10 years in this place. It is impossible to say that I am willing to let go. Should I give up? He pondered. The Siberian wild tiger walked to the window. Now there were no teams that shot him, but there were the super mutants that addicts call them and a few soldiers. Although these people would not snipe him from a distance, their destination was also the factory. "Boss, are you ready? We should go." The man with glasses walked into the room and gave a reminder to the Siberian wild tiger. "You have been with me for a while, so you should know very well that if I leave like this, I may lose everything. Now I am thinking about whether I should leave. You are a scholar, give me some advice, should I go or not?" The Siberian wild tiger stood leaning against the desk, looking a little tired. The one who walks 100 is half 90, and he has obviously reached this point, even defeating so many teams one by one. In the end, a team of super mutants and soldiers jumped out. Just now he hung up the phone with the big shot above him, but the other party just stayed silent for a moment and then instructed him to exit the factory first and discuss the rest later. What's the long-term plan? Why does the Siberian wild tiger feel that he doesn't seem to have much chance? In fact, the principle of the factory is not very complicated. Those formulas were handed over to this big shot as a certificate of surrender a few days ago. If he withdraws now, it will definitely be extremely difficult to return to this place. After all, there are as many characters as you want who can replace him. "Boss, let's go, it's useless for you to stay here." The eyes of the man with glasses had a strange luster under his lenses. The northeast wild tiger sighed. He knew it would be useless if he kept it. Although he is tall, he is not a threat to top players like that. Just see if there is a chance to come back in the future. Thinking of all this, he took out a small briefcase from the table. "Let's go." He looked at the office with nostalgia. The bespectacled man looked at the briefcase and asked a little strangely, "Boss, is this the Japanese technical information your grandfather obtained back then?" The Siberian wild tiger shook his head and said, "It's just a backup. I've already given the original to the big shot." After finishing speaking, he walked towards the office door. Bang! Smoke filled the air. The Siberian wild tiger looked in disbelief at the bloody hole on his chest. The northeast wild tiger, "No. Li Zheng. You are really not a very capable person." The Siberian wild tiger weakly crashed into the door that had not yet been opened. He leaned against the office door and struggled to turn his head, his strong body falling continuously. "You." The Siberian wild tiger bared its teeth. In front of him, the man holding the pistol was the man with glasses whom he trusted most. "What am I? Although I really appreciate your recognition of me, for so long, you have given me the feeling that you have reached this point just by luck. It is impossible for a person like you to become a great person. In this case, wouldn't it be better to let me help you carry forward your achievements?" The bespectacled man's eyes were still shining with an inexplicable luster under the thick lenses. But there was already a smile on his face. He stretched out his hand and took the briefcase from the weak Siberian wild tiger. "By the way, let me tell you that these information of yours came from the Japanese country. The buyers I am looking for are also from the Japanese country. The benefits they promised me are so much that I can't believe it. And the future extension of this technology, I will also receive dividends from the income, which is pretty good." The bespectacled man gently pushed the strong body that had no strength left. The tall body of the Siberian wild tiger slowly fell down. "You, bastard, sell, national thief." He finally couldn't hold it on anymore. After saying these words, blood spilled from the corner of his mouth, and then his body hit the ground heavily. The man with glasses opened the office door and held a briefcase. Before walking out of the room, he looked down at the Siberian wild tiger that had not completely lost its breath, and showed a sneer. "Traitor! You murderer, aren't you just like me?" Then he gently closed the office door again. "Steps away." Ahem. The Siberian wild tiger lay on the ground and coughed up 2 mouthfuls of blood. He wanted to struggle to get up, but he didn't have any strength. He wanted revenge, but his body refused to obey him. Over the years, I have worked hard to explore the factory, looking for the footprints of my great-grandfather and brother named Lee Kicken, and then found the ruins of the factory. Finally, through a series of means, the completion of the factory kept echoing in my mind. The man with glasses said that he got to where he is now by luck. Maybe there is a bit of luck, but he also works very hard. Seeing that the factory was about to get back on track, he was about to use the medicinal liquid in his hand to achieve his great ideal. One after another attacks are coming. Even now, he is dying. He was not willing to die like this. But my vision is still blurry. I don't want to die. The Siberian wild tiger crawled towards his desk. The body has no strength left. But he was still crawling hard. With trembling fingers, he used the key to open the desk drawer. 2 bottles filled with black liquid, just inside. According to that information, if you drink this, there is a 995% chance of death. Another 5% chance of death. I can't die. The Siberian wild tiger reluctantly opened a bottle, and then poured the black liquid inside directly into his stomach. Well. After a while, he let out a low roar. The head fell downwards and hit the ground. Lost its voice. It seems alive and yet it seems dead. The sunlight from the outside shines into the small space, making it warm. The tall figure fell there, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. And in the outside world. Everyone, listen to me. The boss said that the addict will come to pick him up later. Let's go to Liangshui town first. He will contact us when he gets out. Let's go quickly. The bespectacled man walked up to a group of men who were already extremely frightened, and said the boss order with a slightly anxious look. Let's go. Those masters are about to come in. Even 100 of us are not enough to die. Hurry. Some people couldn't help but just picked up their luggage and walked towards the outside world. None of the men in this group had any brains. The man with glasses deceived everyone with just one word. Mixed in the crowd, the man with glasses was holding a suitcase and a simple briefcase. The eyes are disdainful. After going out, I finally don't have to hang out with these idiots. The group of people quickly disappeared outside the gate. There is a hidden tunnel entrance at the gate of the factory. This tunnel entrance is connected to a mostly uninhabited trail 2 kilometers away. As long as you get there, you are basically safe. And after all these people left, the 3 buildings that had been relatively lively in recent years suddenly became deserted. The machines had long ceased to operate, and the workers had long since been dismissed or relocated. With the backstage of a big shot, those workers are no longer a threat. Even if they leak something, someone will be there to deal with it. So now among the 3 buildings of the factory, only the tall man in the office is left, lying on the ground not knowing whether he is alive or dead. It seems that after 2 years of busyness, the peace of the past has returned. And in this silence, buzz. A faint sound came from the distant air. A monster with a metallic luster all over its body, flying from the sky towards the factory. If my prediction is correct, the security in the factory should be very tight at this time, and there are also unimaginable masters such as drug addicts. It is very dangerous for me to invade the factory. Jia Yan was mentally prepared for a surprise attack. He will not give up the opportunity to continue to be strong just because of danger. Even if he knew that meeting an addict would probably lead to a narrow escape from death, he would not back down. Since his rebirth, hasn't Jia Yan relied on the word brave to fight hard to this point? So we still have to fight this time. If you don't fight, there will be no future. Hey, what's going on in the factory? There's a tunnel entrance at the gate. Is this how they usually enter? When Jia Yan was flying high in the sky, he discovered that the factory was a little different from usual. There is no sound from the machine. Has the machine not been repaired yet? This is possible, but why are the security guards who were everywhere missing? Jia Yan was very surprised. Hundreds of meters above the factory, circling and flying for 3 or 4 times, he finally confirmed that something must have happened to the factory. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 97. Wish you all a happy Mid-Autumn Festival. Jia Yan never knew that there were changes in the Northeast Wild Tiger factory, and thought that the return of the drug addicts was to capture those mutated creatures. But now it seems that this is not the case. Bang bang bang. With his keen vision from high in the sky, Jia Yan noticed the sound of gunshots spraying bullets not far from the factory. That's a battle over there. Jia Yan was high in the sky and quickly landed down. The people fighting near the factory are most likely drug addicts. This killer is so powerful that you may notice his figure in the air. In fact, Jia Yan's landing was already slow. About 1 kilometer away from the factory, there is a battlefield where 3 groups of people are fighting. James, you 2 star-spangled banners, go back to your star-spangled banner country. Don't think you could fight with the 6 of us at the same time before. That was because we took into account the damage to civilians. Otherwise, you would have died long ago. Yes. I admit that I underestimated you, the king of Chinese soldiers. I didn't expect you to be so strong after liberating all the combat power. But our conditions are the same. Your ammunition is almost running out. How can we fight next? 2 voices sounded from the bushes. If you 2 people want to fight, go elsewhere. I told you that you are not welcome here. Get out of here. You have the problem of ammunition shortage, but I don't. Be careful when the time comes. I really want it. Your lives. The addict's voice also sounded everywhere in the jungle, making it difficult to determine his true location. You bastard addict, I didn't expect this person to be so difficult to deal with. He can reach the same level as us without any special enhanced equipment. The 3 Chinese soldier kings are wearing enhanced protective suits. This protective suit uses the top science and technology of the Chinese nation and plays a very powerful role in protection, detection, and life support. It can be said that wearing it, the king of soldiers has been directly upgraded to a new level. Of course, this also requires the king of war himself to be strong in order to be strengthened. If it were worn by an ordinary person, not only would it not make him stronger, but it might even get in the way and reduce his mobility. The 3 soldier kings were hiding behind some trees, constantly looking around. Originally, the only combat power they had to worry about was the 2 gringos from the Star-Spangled Banner country, but with the addition of one of the world's top killers, they suddenly felt a lot of pressure. Although the previous appearance of drug addicts did not cause any casualties to any of the soldier kings, the elusive killer's intimidation in the jungle was simply astonishing, and the 3 soldier kings were immediately unable to advance or retreat. These 3 people believe that the situation is also the same with the 2 stars and stripes masters. A total of 5 top masters were restrained by the addict alone and unable to move. But it was just a containment. Everyone could see that as a killer, the addict was willing to go all out to protect the buildings in the factory. Several times they tried to get closer, but the top killer showed himself. Launched an attack on them, and almost every counter-attack they suffered was a narrow escape. After all, in frontal combat, the killer hiding in the dark can never compare with the king of soldiers and the real top masters. Just as the battle continues to rage. What is that? Captain Bingwang suddenly looked to the sky. As expected of a super strong man, this man could actually detect some movement in the sky while he was concentrating on the battle. After receiving his prompt, the other 2 people also looked up. That's it? A metal machine? It doesn't seem right. What on earth is it? He landed towards the building. The other 2 were shocked. This should be some kind of machine. If it lands downwards, that's what the 2 stars and stripes people should be worried about. After all, their destination is there. If this thing lands, it might cause some changes. Although we also have a mission, saying that we are inspecting that factory by the way. But that is just incidental after all, and this is on the territory of our country, China, and the machinery is probably from our country. So we don't have to worry. If the other party says, I will definitely be anxious. What kind of drug addict? He must be anxious too. There is a reason why he prevented us from approaching the factory. Now, everything is destroyed by this machine. Captain Bingwang guessed it right. James, the machine has landed, and it is indeed heading for that place. Let's ignore these people in front of us and leave quickly. Two top experts from the Star-Spangled Banner Nation, including one who was truly a super mutant whose strength was unknown, headed towards the factory. In the depths of the jungle, a faint figure was hiding quietly in the shadows. After seeing the metal machine landing in the air, his eyes flashed and his figure moved quickly from the shadows towards the factory. Rush away quickly. Jia Yan never expected that just his descending action would be regarded as a threat by the top experts in the battle. But he has done it. Even if it brings danger, he will do whatever it takes. After all this time, is there still less danger? Jia Yan can be regarded as a person who comes and goes in the wind and rain. The mere danger cannot stop him from moving forward. Drop. Jia Yan's body, carrying the heavy weight of the metal exoskeleton, descended rapidly. At the same time, he is alert to possible attacks in the factory. There was no attack. Is there really no one there? How is that possible? What happened in the factory while I was away? Jia Yan, fully armed, flew above the factory floor. He was observing the three buildings of the factory through the window. The windows and doors in the office were so wide open. The whole area around the factory no longer had that alluring smell. Could it be that the factory really stopped production completely for some reason? Jia Yan found it unbelievable. If the factory stops production, then the possibility of him getting that black liquid is completely gone. Even if you go to the underground world, you won't be able to find it. Because this is something made by humans through technology, the underground world is at best the source of raw materials, which does not mean that there must be such a thing. Damn it, I've lost the possibility of finding my first target before I even find it. Jia Yan is unwilling to give in. But no matter how unwilling he was, he could only continue with his second step. That is to go to the underworld. Defeat the giant cockroaches and plunder the mysterious juice from them to achieve your goal of becoming more powerful. Although the effect of the mysterious juice seems to be getting smaller and smaller, Jia Yan can guarantee that it is still good for him. As for whether it can make major changes in the body, you will only know if you try it. James, those Chinese soldiers kings behind are really troublesome, can't you take action to deal with them? Two blonde foreign men approached the factory at high speed. Running behind was the middle-aged foreigner with an old appearance. There were beads of sweat on his face. He aimed at the rear and fired bullets from time to time. Although there have always been spies and undercover agents providing ammunition and arms support on the roads of China, this supply was cut off after going deep into the jungle. Although the three soldier kings also had the same conditions, after all, they were fighting in the local area and needed urgent supplies. It will definitely be delivered soon by various means. The anxious battle made the middle-aged foreign man look tired. On the other hand, the handsome young man still had the expression of an old god, and he didn't show any real expression at all. Don't be anxious. It's not like you don't know that my power is difficult to control. After I release it, I will fall into a period of weakness. If I release it, I can only solve one of them. I will become a burden to you, the foreign young man said carelessly. Responded lazily. Then, with seemingly random eyes, he glanced at the bushes not far away. That foreign young man is too dangerous. The drug addict who followed the two men in the bush stopped hard. He hid in the jungle and watched as two killers rushed into the Siberian wild tiger factory. I'm sorry, Li Jing. I can only hold back until now. It will be dangerous if I continue. I don't want to feel like being chased by super mutants again. But it's been so long, I think you should leave. If you are really ignorant and still stay in the building, you are seeking your own death. No wonder I abandoned you. The addict's figure gradually disappeared in the trees, and a series of rustling sounds were heard in the jungle. Just like the declaration before the war, this top killer chose to leave after seeing the super mutant. He had no idea that the person he wanted to protect was suddenly attacked by his men and fell in the office, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Shortly after his figure disappeared, another series of footsteps sounded. Several soldiers looked at the general direction where the top killer disappeared. It seems that the guy who made the cold shot retreated after knowing the difficulties. As top experts, these people have some kind of perception. Through the scenery they see with their eyes, they can is able to make subconscious judgments very quickly. This kind of judgment is not a superpower, but a result of too much battlefield experience and fighting against too many types of masters, so he can instinctively read the opponent's situation in an instant. There was no trace of forgery when the addict left. The subtle changes in the jungle were immediately captured by the soldiers. Without this guy, we can safely recover our previous debts from those two foreigners. Captain Bing Guang's eyes flashed, and he continued to lead his two comrades in pursuit towards the factory. At this time, inside the factory gate, Jia Yan was cruising in the open space observing several buildings in the factory. But the doors to the two workshop buildings are still closed. How should I get in? He was looking for a way to enter the workshop. Although the windows of the office building were open, the two workshop buildings leading to the gap in the underground world were closed. Click, click, click. Just when Jia Yan flapped his wings, he suddenly heard a series of footsteps, rushing directly from outside the factory gate into the open gate. Hey, this machine is still hanging out. The middle-aged foreigner with an old face had his mouth wide open, as if he had discovered something surprising. Then the huge caliber hand cannon in his hand, which was the famous Desert Eagle large caliber pistol, was aimed at Jia Yan's direction. Bang! Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 98. Please collect. The smell of gunpowder filled the air, a flash of light flashed out, and the muzzle of a large caliber pistol spurted out. Can't be hit. Jia Yan felt extremely calm at this moment. As early as the moment he saw the other party, his body was already moving. Although it cannot be said that the metal exoskeleton and cloth defense cannot block the power of the Desert Eagle, this thing called a hand cannon is still too dangerous in the end. This old middle-aged foreigner seemed not as strong as the other young man. If it were the former Jia Yan, he must have easily evaded his aim. But it's different now. He wears a metal exoskeleton, which has a certain impact on the instantaneous acceleration. Even if the impact is not great, it is enough to make bullets that can be avoided become full of suspense. Bang! With the inertia of forward movement, Jia Yanfei shot towards the corner of three buildings. A round metal bullet, like a life-threatening projectile, shot towards Jia Yan's body at a speed that was too fast to be seen clearly. Don't worry, I can avoid it. At this moment of 0.00 seconds, Jia Yan seemed to still have a little time to think. He didn't know if his thoughts were running faster after the mutation, or if it was just an illusion. His belly twisted. And just under the lightning produced by the twisting, the round bullet quickly passed through the side of the abdomen. Without this subtle twisting movement, it is really possible for a bullet to directly hit the abdomen. Jia Yan himself didn't know what he did in that moment. It was done subconsciously, or maybe he had some sense of it. Time goes so fast. Even he himself didn't notice the small movement of twisting his abdomen to avoid bullets. Maybe it's the sense of crisis, or maybe it's caused by something else. In short, this twist caused the bullet to miss him. However, the wind pressure generated by this bullet still caused the exoskeleton of his abdomen to look like sparks shooting out. It wasn't really a hit, it was just wind pressure at close range. This shows how powerful the so-called hand cannon is. The moment the sound resounded, Jia Yan's body had already rushed into the corner of a building, out of sight of the two foreigners. The foreign young man who had raised his pistol also frowned. Just as he was about to take aim, the opponent ran away. It seems that the operator of this machine has good skills. Let's go after him and have a look. The old middle-aged foreign man's blue eyes glowed with unwillingness. We don't have enough time. The three obstructive guys have already caught up with us. Get in quickly. The young foreigner looked at the direction where the so-called machine disappeared and felt a little confused. Is this a machine? Although there is the sound of flapping wings, there is no sound of a motor or other power source. There is no such silent power mode nowadays. And the instant reaction speed is too exaggerated. This kind of technology involves absolutely all aspects of technology. He guessed in his heart that even their motherland, the Star-Spangled Banner, which is known as the world's largest technological power, would not be able to do it. Is it possible for China to make such a metal monster? So he was wondering what the true identity of this monster that looked like a metal machine was. But this is not the time to think so much. Three Chinese warrior kings wearing high-tech equipment appeared outside the jungle not far from the gate. Let's go. The two of them glanced behind them and rushed towards several buildings. The three soldier kings looked gloomy, and soon after, they entered the factory area through the factory gate. As top experts, the three of them naturally looked around the area before entering the factory, but they did not see the two foreigners or the flying machine that landed before. What the hell is that? It can't be some kind of Star-Spangled Banner thing. Captain Bing Guang's face was a little gloomy. Although drones have long been popularized around the world, the one that really has the top level is the Star-Spangled Banner country. I was wondering if it was something from China, but after talking to the superiors on the way here, I realized that the superiors had not dispatched any drones to come here. Besides, if you think about it carefully, the appearance of the flying machine is not the same as that of a drone. What exactly is it? Jia Yan, a being that both parties were concerned about, flew from a blind spot that no one could notice to the top floor of the central workshop building. Climbing on the top of the attic, a pair of compound eyes looked down at the place. Below are the two opposing parties. I saw them a week ago. Jia Yan quickly recognized the characters on both sides. It was the battle between these two groups a week ago that made the people panic. Even the old foreigner wanted to use the Desert Eagle against a person. Innocent little girl takes action. Only then did Jia Yan have to emerge from hiding and save the little girl. The shocking glimpse was captured on video and became a hot topic on the internet. These two parties are the main reasons for Jia Yan's exposure. But Jia Yan doesn't care. Even if it is exposed, he doesn't feel like he can't survive now. They must still be fighting, and it's obvious that the two foreigners are going to this factory, and several Chinese soldiers are following them. I also searched online. The place where these two foreigners first appeared was still near Gyeonggi province, and then they came almost in a straight line here. So, can I guess that the original target of these two people was the northeastern wild tiger? Where is the factory? In other words, does the closure of the Northeast Wild Tiger factory have anything to do with these people? Jia Yan continues to analyze, but the information he currently has is too little, and he can't even imagine that the factory was shut down, and that it also involved some big figures and powerful forces. Even before, the Addicts had defeated several top domestic teams. But these things are not the focus for Jia Yan. Since these two foreigners came here, it's not necessarily a bad thing for me. I'm here now, sitting on the mountain and watching the tiger fight. Jia Yan made a decision and lay down on the roof, not planning to go down to participate in the battle between several top masters. After all, if he goes down to take part, not to mention the danger, he will not get any benefits. There isn't much information here. Let's search this so-called office building first. In front of an office building in 3 buildings, 2 foreigners aimed at the door lock and destroyed it with a casual shot. The 2 of them rushed toward the building while dealing with the 3 soldiers who were constantly shooting from behind and pressing forward step by step. The 2 of them obviously had some general information about the factory. This information may have something to do with the first batch of workers released from the factory. Although the Siberian wild tiger is a ruthless person and not a good person, he still rarely does things like murder and silence. As a result, the information was leaked. The conditions are too simple. Any private research institute in our Star-Spangled Banner country is 10 times better than this one. Do the things we want to investigate really exist in a place like this? The old-faced foreigner looked at everything in front of him in disbelief. Although he had expected it for a long time, the appearance of this so-called office building still puzzled him. Such a place actually has something that even the government of the Star-Spangled Banner country is interested in? Don't think so much. The more such a thing is in such a place, the more likely it is to appear. Otherwise, it would have been taken away by the Chinese government. Quick, let's find out if there is any relevant information. Bang bang bang. As soon as the 2 of them turned the corner, 3 soldiers from behind also appeared in an impact. They aimed at the 2 hiding figures and fired a burst of fire. Is this the factory office building mentioned in the information? Captain Bingwang frowned and looked at the building in front of him. This so-called office building, just like its appearance, has only undergone simple repairs on the inside, and some walls still have cracks. Thanks to Siberian wild tigers and others, we have been able to operate here for more than a year. But it's no wonder. If there is a large-scale renovation, the risk of exposure here will also increase. Let's chase. The 3 Chinese soldier kings did not pay much attention to the environment. After taking a look, they continued to chase the 2 foreigners. If there really is any secret here, it is not something that these foreigners can get involved in. After all, this place still belongs to China. Putting aside the grievances left by the previous battle, they also need to drive the 2 foreigners out of the motherland, and then return to their own country to kill them if they want to fight or kill them. Bang bang bang. Bang. Jia Yan lay on the top floor of another building that was used as a factory workshop, feeling the noise of gunfire in the office building. What a fierce battle. His compound eyes were faint, and these human wars had nothing to do with him. He is just waiting for the opportunity. 5 top experts are still fighting fiercely in the office building. As both sides began to run out of ammunition, the battle went from being loud at first to only occasionally ringing out once or twice. You two, you don't have much ammunition. If you withdraw here and leave the country under our escort, your country will not hold you responsible. Please consider it. Captain Bingwang hid behind a wall and roared. Hey, are you Chinese people all idiots? Don't talk so much, just come and kill them if you have the ability. The old foreign man was also hiding in a house, while the young foreigner was constantly turning things around in the house. This was a place that looked like it was a dormitory. Perhaps it had been the room of one of the Siberian wild tiger's men before. The young man rummaged through the room very professionally for 2 minutes, searching the room almost quickly. But nothing was gained. Walk. The 2 looked at each other, and the young man suddenly rushed out of the room door. With a gunshot, he knocked open the door of an office diagonally opposite and jumped in. His speed was so fast that several of the aiming soldiers had no time to take action and allowed him to escape. However, when this young foreigner came to the office, he frowned slightly. In this office, there was a tall Chinese man with a bullet hole in his chest, lying in a pool of blood. The man was motionless and looked like he had died not long ago. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 99. Please collect. There is another dead person here. Was it the casualties caused by the internal strife just now? This is really interesting. The young foreigner stepped forward nonchalantly and kicked the body that was lying on the ground without a heartbeat into the corner. There were some paper documents and a potion bottle filled with black liquid in the drawer. The young man opened the document and flipped through it a little. Then a smile appeared on his face. Very good, that's it. After sorting out these materials one by one, he took out a file bag from the office file folder and stuffed the information he found useful into it. Hey. Look what you found, a handsome and burly Chinese young man. Oh, are you pretending to be all treasures, my dear? You know we can't pretend too much, it will affect our actions. Middle-aged men with old faces also rushed in from the door. His arm was bruised for some unknown reason, and blood seeped out of his clothes along the wound, and then dripped to the ground. Damn! Can't you just shut up? I didn't know I brought my mother to China. Take a look, old man, maybe what you need is that bottle of black stuff. I think it's some kind of Chinese medicine potion? Do you think it will be effective to apply it on your wounds? I think you can give it a try. The young man pointed at the black liquid lying in the drawer and said half-jokingly. Oh no, James, I don't think your joke is funny at all. Young man, now it's your turn to contain them. I feel a little pain in my arm and I have to bandage the wound. Hampton, I think you need to hold on a little longer. Look, it says, workshop number 2 has a passage to the underground space. Oh, I forgot that you don't understand Chinese. Anyway, you have to hold on. Now, we don't have time to bandage, now we have to jump out of the window and go to the number 2 workshop. After the foreign young man named James finished speaking, he opened the window door and jumped out. Madman! If I had known earlier, I should have refused this mission assignment. This is the 3rd floor, my poor arms, the old middle-aged man yelled helplessly. He was also ready to jump off too. However, he himself didn't know why, but before jumping, he unexpectedly reached out and stuffed the bottle filled with black liquid into his trouser pocket. I don't know if he also thinks that this is some kind of Chinese medicine that can treat the injury on his arm. After putting away the bottle, he followed James and jumped out of the window. The 3 soldiers kings heard a sound. But this could be a trap. The 3 of them were still hiding behind a wall. It wasn't until a full minute passed that the leader of the team, Captain Bing Wang, frowned slightly. After giving a slight hint with his expression, the person next to him understood it immediately, and then with a gun in his extremely vigilant hand, he dashed past the door of the office room. No attack came his way. They really escaped. The man entered the office, saw the open window and door, and immediately reported to the 2 comrades behind him through the intercom device implanted in the helmet. Chase, the other 2 people ran towards the exit of the building without even thinking about it. The strong soldier in the office climbed up the window and prepared to jump down. But when he was about to jump, the man looked at the body of the tall young man lying on the ground strangely. His fingers seemed to move just now. No. It must be my imagination. This man also jumped from the window. They're coming out. Jia Yan lay on the top of a workshop building and looked at the battle area below. After 2 foreigners jumped from the 3rd floor of the office building, they headed directly for the number 2 workshop building at his feet. Very good, help me open the door of workshop number 2, and then it will be easy for me to go to the underground world. Jia Yan's compound eyes were dim and his head poked out from the top of the building. The 2 warring parties did not forget his flying machine, but they did not regard this machine as a threat. So they just focused on each other, and Jia Yan's flying machine took 2nd place. Bang bang. Although ammunition is precious, Now is not the time to save ammunition for the two foreign experts who are racing against time. They opened the strong protective door of the number 2 workshop building with 2 shots. Squeak. With a sound, the 2 men opened the workshop door and rushed in. They entered the workshop building, and the 3 soldier kings also appeared from the office building one by one. Chase, the 3 of them looked at each other and continued to pursue. The 5 masters fought and fled with each other. After so many days, everyone had a rough estimate of each other's combat effectiveness. Even if the king of soldiers still had concerns about the so-called super mutants, the soldiers, there is one more person on Wang's side. Even if the other party unleashes the power of a super mutant, it is destined to be impossible to kill 3 soldiers at once. In the end, it will enter a period of weakness due to the expansion of strength. Both sides understand this. Therefore, for a super mutant, if his strength is expanded, he is not strong, and if he is not expanded, he is not strong either. It becomes very embarrassing. The competition now is time, to see whether the 2 foreigners will complete their mission and leave first, or whether the reinforcements from China will arrive first. So the soldiers are trying their best to delay time. The 3 of them rushed into the number 2 workshop at lightning speed. Jia Yan is still on the top of the building, observing the bottom with compound eyes. The sun gradually warmed up, and Jia Yan felt that the stiffness caused by the low temperature in the morning had been greatly relieved. His mobility is gradually improving. Very good. Let's raise the temperature a little higher. Raise it a little higher to facilitate my next actions. Jia Yan silently hoped in his heart that the weather would be better and the temperature higher. The weather is now at the end of September. Although the temperature in the north is very low in the morning and evening, it may still reach more than 20 degrees at noon. For Jia Yan, this temperature is the most suitable temperature for activities. Insects are cold-blooded animals, and the mobility of cold-blooded animals is greatly affected by temperature. The fighting in workshop number 2 continues. Jia Yan couldn't even imagine that the first floor of this number 2 workshop, which was an area of more than 300 square meters, actually accommodated 5 top masters fighting inside. And neither side brings death. This is simply amazing. Jia Yan didn't understand that when the strength reached a certain level, it was not that simple to tell the difference, not to mention that the king of Bing was just delaying the opponent. Therefore, the battle between the 2 sides has always been kept in a safe situation, and neither side has really started an extremely dangerous bloody battle. If a bloody battle really begins, the outcome will only be a matter of seconds. When Jia Yan heard 1 or 2 sounds of physical combat coming from below. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and Jia Yan, who was on the roof, almost flipped upside down. The shock wave caused by the explosion spread rapidly, and the grass and trees around the factory swayed suddenly. What happened? Jia Yan forced himself to lie down and looked down through his compound eyes. 3 soldiers rushed out of the workshop door. One of them seemed to be affected by the explosion and suffered certain injuries. But the 2 foreigners did not show up. Headquarters. Those 2 bastards used tricks. Our Wang Shui was even more injured. The other party? The other party was almost uninjured. They just blew up a pipe in the workshop and are now using their latest small-scale downhill equipment from the Stars and Stripes. Rapidly descending through the pipeline. Please ask the headquarters for instructions on what we should do next. Captain Bing Wang explained the situation to the headquarters through the intercom. Yes. We will follow and stop their behavior. The 3 soldier kings accepted the order, but the injured one had blood pouring from his mouth and could no longer walk. So he had to sit against the wall. The other 2 people re-entered the workshop door. What? 2 foreigners went down to the underground world through the passage. How is it possible? How do they know that the underground world exists? Jia Yan's hearing organs are more developed than humans, and he can hear the conversation of Captain General King. He was immediately extremely surprised. What are the identities of these two foreigners? How could they possibly know that the underground world existed? After all, Jia Yan had judged that even the Siberian wild tigers were not clear about this underground world. He only knew that the passage might lead to the underground, but he never thought that there would be an underground world with an ecosystem below. Even he does not know the existence of the underground world, so the Chinese government, which does not even know the operating status of the factory, must not know the existence of the underground world. But now that two foreigners have entered the underground world, and two Chinese soldier kings have followed them, the secrets of the underground world will be completely exposed. Jia Yan couldn't guarantee what impact these people would have on the underground world, or what their purpose was. No, and I have to go down quickly. Especially the news given by these military kings will definitely attract the attention of the entire Huaxia kingdom. By then, this underground world may not be as good as me. An easy place to enter. Even half an hour later, it is not certain whether this place will be surrounded by a large number of troops. Jia Yan made a judgment, and then felt anxious in his heart. Rush. He made a quick decision and flapped his wings. Buzz. Jia Yan flew up from the roof. Huh, the wounded soldier king sitting next to the wall heard the voice. He seemed to have just remembered something. A Chinese-made rifle in his hand was immediately aimed at the sky. The next moment, the black shadow suddenly flashed across his eyes. Enter the open door of workshop number 2. Extremely fast. Snapped. The king of soldiers pulled the trigger. But he was seriously injured and unable to shoot accurately. The flying machine in his eyes made a change of direction in the air, and the target of this bullet was missed by 1,000 miles. Buzz. Jia Yan looked at the underground cavity formed by the explosion in front of him, and his compound eyes scurried towards it faintly. And those few soldier kings, as well as the two foreigners who entered the cave earlier, had landed long ago. Jia Yan could almost be said to be following closely behind, rushing in directly. Return to the underworld. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 100. Please collect. Report to the headquarters. There was a suspected mechanical flying object that entered the passage just now. Looking at it from the outside, I don't think it looks like a machine, but rather like some kind of life form. Is it a video? Due to the urgency of the matter, I didn't have time to turn on the video recording function. Okay. From now on, the video recording function will be turned on all the time. Okay. The injured king of soldiers sat against the wall, waiting for support from the rear. Because this factory is too sensitive, before the two foreigners came, there were several big shots and powerful tentacles engaged in a series of struggles here, so it was not so easy for the military to get in. This involves all aspects of problems, including some intrigues and even corruption from the top. So much so that the rescue team and supporting soldiers couldn't follow up in time. This powerful soldier could only lean against the wall and breathe slowly. However, less than 2 minutes after he sat down, this strong man's vision suddenly froze. Outside the factory gate, 3 figures slowly walked in. There was a man at the front with a mustache and sunglasses. He was dressed very casually, as if he was an ordinary person visiting the mountains and forests. Following him were a man and a woman. Among the two, the man was missing an arm and had 2 knife marks on his face. He looked slightly ferocious and gloomy. The woman is only in her 20s, with her hair flowing down like a waterfall and swaying in the wind, which is very moving. Who are you? The king of soldiers struggled to stand up from the ground. Jiligwala, the man in the lead pushed up his glasses, looked at the injured Chinese soldier king in front of him, and said something. The woman behind him took a step forward and said in half-speaking Chinese, Master Wuman asks you if you are the top master of this Chinese country. Lord Wuman? Is this accent from Japan? The king of soldiers stood up from the ground. This place has been controlled by the Chinese military. Please go back to where you came from. Jili-guala, the man wearing glasses continued to push up his glasses and said calmly. Our Lord said that he respects the strong men of China, but you have been injured. Please make way and don't seek death yourself. The woman stood aside and continued to speak in a weird accent. Seeking death? If you can do it, come and try it. No matter what, I will kill 2 Japanese pirates today. The king of soldiers slowly raised the gun. He had injuries to his abdomen and one arm. The man wearing glasses shook his head. Clang. After the noise, the 3 of them passed through the gate guarded by the king of soldiers and walked into the entrance of workshop number 2. When the woman passed by the standing soldier king, she looked back at the Chinese soldier king who had a gloomy face but did not move. Our Lord said that he respects the strong men of China very much. During the war, there was a master of Waxia who spared his life, so this time he also spared your life. Please stop pursuing him. Otherwise, my adults will not be merciful. After finishing speaking, the 3 of them walked into the door of workshop number 2. Poof. When the 3 figures disappeared, a clear voice sounded from the body of the Chinese soldier king. The bulletproof vest on his body actually split diagonally, as if it had been cut open by something extremely sharp, and then deep scars were cut on the strong muscles inside. During the war? And you still call us? Could it be that this is the national treasure monster of Japan? No wonder. The king of soldiers looked gloomy, looking at his injured chest again, but this time he did not sit down weakly on the ground. Instead, he clenched his fists and looked at the 3 Japanese people who turned into the workshop passage with an angry expression, extremely angry. What do the Japanese want to do? Even the world's top master, who is known as a national treasure, is sent to China. How can he still want to start a war? Not mentioning this Chinese soldier king, he reported the news of the appearance of the Japanese monster. Jia Yan only said that he entered the crack of the passage a moment ahead of these people. Jia Yan kept fluttering his wings and looked at the rapidly deepening space channel in front of him. As he went deeper, the high oxygen environment around him gradually made him feel better. Moreover, the temperature gradually increased, and Jia Yan felt that his condition was reaching its peak. Those people in front didn't even use ropes. Jia Yan looked around and saw no trace of a rope. You should know that when humans climb rocks, rappel, and perform similar activities, they need the help of ropes, otherwise it is very dangerous. But 4 people had already descended into the passage in front of him, but Jia Yan didn't see a rope. Otherwise, Jia Yan can try to see if breaking the rope can kill these top masters. Jia Yan had fallen very fast, but unexpectedly, he could not see the king of Bing and others who entered the underground not much earlier than him. When we got close to the cave in the underground world, there was a faint sound coming from below. There is still the sound of fighting between the 2 sides. Jia Yan paused slightly. Then he tried to reduce the noise of his flight, quietly flew to the bottom of the crack passage, which was the top of the cave below, and observed the battle situation. The 2 sides are now in a 2-on-2 situation, but it is not that the Chinese soldier king has become disadvantaged after missing one person, but it still maintains the upper hand. This is the result of poor ammunition. Both parties were wearing oxygen masks at this time. The 2 foreigners didn't seem to have much equipment on them, but they must have prepared these things in advance, so they wore portable oxygen masks on their faces. As for the 2 soldier kings, they were carrying a lot of things on their backs. It seemed that these oxygen masks and the like were also conventional equipment. The 2 sides were fighting and fleeing, and they were already approaching the entrance of the cave. We are about to reach the underground world. This group of people may not know that the overlord of the underground world is the army of cockroaches. I really look forward to seeing how frightened they are when the army of cockroaches appears. Jia Yan was not sure whether the 2 groups could escape with their lives during the siege of the Worm Army. After all, Jia Yan doesn't know what means such a top master has, so he decides that he must die. No, it's really not good. In other words, Jia Yan still felt in his heart that these two groups would definitely die. Huh? Why is there a sound from above? Just as Jia Yan was observing the battle between the two parties, his sensitive antennae ears suddenly felt a slight sound in the sky above him again. He quickly tightened his grip on the rock with his 6 legs, and stood upside down on the top of the cave while hiding his body in a dark corner. Is it the injured king of soldiers? Why did he follow him too? Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed faintly. When he saw the 3 people descending from above clearly, even Jia Yan was slightly startled. These 3 people have never been seen before. Could it be that someone came from behind to support them? It looks like an oriental face, could it be from the king of soldiers' side? But it doesn't look like it. Seeing the whereabouts of the 3 people, Jia Yan realized that it turned out that these masters used high-tech equipment to descend. They have steel wire ropes on their arms. Every time they descend a section, they will spray out the rope from the other hand with the device in their arm. They don't know what substance is on the tip of the rope. Once it sticks, it will stick to the rock. Then they will drop another section and continue. Release the rope of the other arm and alternate the descent. It seems that we were really stuck in the well before. Such technological equipment actually exists. Jia Yan couldn't help but feel a little emotional. But he doesn't think that it is really possible for ordinary people to use similar things. That can only mean that the 3 people in front of him also have different identities, and maybe they are some masters. The 3 of them descended quickly, narrowly missing Jia Yan, who was hiding behind a rock and merging with the darkness. An expert is an expert, but which expert would have thought that a giant mosquito with a body of more than 20 centimeters was observing him? Jili Gwala. The 3 oriental faces who fell into the cave suddenly spoke a series of strange words, and then they all took out portable oxygen masks similar to those of blonde and blue-eyed foreigners from their backpacks, and put them on their faces. Japanese people. Jia Yan was shocked. Just by listening to the language, you can tell that these 3 people are actually Japanese people. There was a more complex light in his compound eyes. You know, Lee Kiken's notepad is hidden in the rubble not far away. The relationship between the Japanese people, this factory, and this underground world can be traced back to the World War period, tens to hundreds of years ago. Unexpectedly, after decades, there are actually Japanese people coming to this underground world again. They are actually Japanese people. These Japanese people must have some purpose. Jia Yan's brain started to spin rapidly again. He is analyzing. No matter who is familiar with this underground world and the factory, only the Japanese who built those 3 buildings and organized people to go down to the underground world are the number 1. They even developed something like a purple-red liquid. But why haven't the Japanese returned to this factory after so many years? Jia Yan has a little guess. That is, since the 3 buildings of the factory were breached, look for the bookstore, and it took decades for the northeastern wild tigers to find them recently and reopen them. That means that the entire world has forgotten this underground world and the factories above it. Perhaps it shouldn't be said that it has been forgotten, but that for some unknown reason, no one knows the specific address of this underground world. The Chinese government may not have known about the existence of such a place from beginning to end, while the Japanese government may have some relevant records, but there is no way to conduct a large-scale search on the Chinese side. As a result, after the Northeast wild tigers opened the factory and finally slowly revealed some secrets, the Japanese country finally determined the location of the underground world, and then these people arrived. They definitely have a purpose, so in this underground world, what they care about will definitely not be ecology or anything else, but only the divine object mentioned in Lee Kiken's notebook. Jia Yan quickly analyzed what the Japanese people wanted. You are from the Japanese country. Even if there are any divine objects here, I will not let you get them. This is China, my former motherland. If there are any divine objects, they can only belong to China. The luster in his compound eyes was even more conspicuous. Thanks to Depressed Fool, Blood Cry, Wuhan, it's beginning to be interesting. Sien Kong Xiode, 878 kh, Menying Luoluo and several book friends for their rewards, and thanks to everyone who voted for recommendation, you all, this is the motivation for Baiyu to update, thank you. Welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all available in mobile phone users, please go and read.